All right, gentlemen, back in the shop, and this is the cluttered and crappy side of the shop. This is where all the boxes collect underneath the stairs. It's kind of a dead space in the basement, so we just throw the boxes under here and they collect, and it's kind of an eyesore really down here. So what I was doing was I was putting the shop together over on this side, and this is usually where we build in the Shapeoko. Was thinking that we could hang up some curtains. So I got these panels, real cheap panels from one of the stores locally here. Found these oak rods being thrown out at a retail store nearby, and so I picked those out of the garbage can. And we're going to hang that curtain panel on this rod, but we're going to use the Shapeoko to make those curtain rod mounts. And so I think what we'll do is actually screw those into the joists that protrude down from the stairs here, so that we can kind of make this space look a little bit cleaner as you come downstairs and we're working in the shop and we're using it as a backdrop for the video. So we're going to come along on this ride. I've actually already designed the project up in Fusion, so we're going to pop it on the Shapeoko, cut it out, and see how it looks. I went ahead and opened up Fusion and just did a real quick sketch. Used the fillet tool and 2-point arc tool here, and just made a really basic curtain rod holder that I can just screw right into the side of the exposed 2x4s down in the basement here. So, all right, we're gonna have to go minimal clamping on this, and I've got it really screwed down here. It's not moving at all. In fact, the whole table moves a little bit when I grab it like that. And we're gonna try to get 4 of those curtain rod holders out of this small piece of board. You can see it's not much bigger than my hand, so it's not a huge piece of lumber. This is just a scrap that I had lying around. Made them fit here, kind of indexed them so that they all kind of work inside of one another. But we're gonna try to cut this with just the 2 hold downs. All right, back over at the computer. So I'm gonna hit load new file here inside of Carbide Motion, and we're gonna find our file. I just popped it on the desktop here to make it easy to get to. It's 4 times rod 225 by 200 G code. That's our file. So we're gonna open that. It's gonna give us our toolpath extents. So 222 millimeters X, 198 millimeters Y, 38 millimeters total Z. So that looks like what I'd expect from the file. So I think we're ready to give this a run. All right, safety glasses on, speed's dialed in. We're gonna go ahead and start this and see what we get. All right, for real this time, had to clean it up, and you'll notice I still don't have the dust boot on my Shapeoko. I have it over there. She was kind enough to get it out to me pretty quickly after I ordered it. I know that the wait time for those things has been crazy lately, but that sucking dust boot needs to go on here. This thing throws chips everywhere. So that'll be in another project. Let's get this thing off, take a look at what we got. So I did put some paper underneath it to try to mitigate cutting the board, and we actually didn't get all the way through this time. I kind of suspected that this piece of MDF that I used, or rather plywood, was really inconsistent in its thickness. So at some edges, I was getting 17.8 with my caliper. On the other edges, I was getting 18. So I kind of erred on the side of caution on this one, and I only went to 17.82 millimeters depth of cut. And you can see that I left quite a bit here, so we're gonna have to clean this thing up quite a bit to make it actually usable as a part. But that's okay, we have a sander, we can do that for sure. Otherwise though, these look like they should serve their purpose. Definitely have quite the edge here on these that we're gonna have to take care of, and yeah, this definitely wasn't the most optimal way to cut that. So maybe we'll try this one again with a better piece of MDF here, or rather pine, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, you know what? I tried peeling some of this back, and I actually broke some of the veneer. There's so much material left on these. This was a really weird piece of wood. Either that or my caliper was not correct. It's one of those digital ones from Harbor Freight. It's about $6, so it's certainly not the most accurate thing in the world, but definitely went way shallow on this. There's some pretty decent material left. So what I'm going to do is use the bandsaw to just nip out some of this stuff that's left over, and then we'll hit it with the sander and see if we can still salvage these parts. They're not perfect, but again, we're just covering up some old boxes down here in the basement, so I think they're going to still be a serviceable part. So let's try this. Let's see if we can clean them up. Also made the tabs significantly thicker this time around, and I kind of regret that. They were 8mm wide and almost 5mm thick. Too much material, and I did that because in the last project I left the tabs significantly smaller than that, and they actually broke as the machine was cutting it, and it's because the final layer in this particular piece of wood is really thin, so that last little layer had a tendency to tear out, and then that piece went shooting out of there. So I was really trying to avoid that this time, and I certainly did, but I just went too far the other way with my tab thickness. If you don't have a bandsaw, let me tell you what, my brother talked me into this one, and it's been one of the coolest tools I've added to my shop. You can do so much with it. This is only a 14-inch, so it's not a huge one, but it's just an absolutely cool tool to have around for doing little stuff like this, and even bigger stuff. Oh yeah. All right. I think we salvaged those. So a little rough around the edges, no doubt. Those tabs, like I said, were a little bit too thick, but we definitely have what I'm going to call 4 usable hangers here. So to pull out the sander, we're going to hit that edge just a little bit, knock it down, and then we're going to go ahead and try to hang those things on the wall. It's my birthday, or it will be in a couple days. I got this as a really cool little birthday present. It's a tiny 20-volt palm sander, and really, really like this tool. But for a long time, Rigid had one of these. My brother's shop's all Rigid shop, and just really loved the little lithium-ion sander. DeWalt just came out with theirs very recently, actually right before Christmas of last year. Finally got this thing, so we're going to use this to take some edges off of these pieces here. Looks pretty good. That's the piece that we broke off a big old face of that back veneer there. So this one we'll try to hide. All right, so we're back over here under the stairs now, and what we need to do is figure out at what level we're going to mount these hooks. I have a couple of things in the way, and you can see I've got this beam over here that supports this cantilevered section of the house, and then we've got that beam there, and I kind of want to keep this right under that beam as my objective here. So the part was designed thus such that it would basically hold this right at the correct spacing from the wall, but our vertical height, of course, is going to be adjustable depending on how we mount this. So I think we're going to be able to hang one from down here on this end, and I may have to, add a essentially another piece of wood dropping down from the floor joists there, so that we can actually hang it out further, so that the curtain will slide back and forth. Because I'd still like to get in here to get to those boxes and put more boxes in there. Because let's be real, we're always getting new fun tools and new fun goodies, and that box stack just keeps growing. So let's do some measuring, and then we'll come back and we'll get this thing mounted up. right, so we're making some progress here. I did go ahead and hang it up here, and I've got some other footage I'm going to cut in front of this part, so you'll see that all happening, kind of super fast motion. It just took about a half an hour to do that. And the reason it took a little bit of time was I needed to actually hang another 2x4 down from the floor joist so that I could support this end of the rod. I wanted it to go out right to the corner here, and then we're going to put in another panel on the end here just to close this whole section up. But it turned out pretty good. Those CNC cut dowel rod holders are just 2 screws right up to this existing wood. This wood's always been fairly hideous, so I'm happy to have it covered up at this point. And then I went ahead and just drilled a small pilot hole in the bottom of the dowel rod and the CNC cut hangers, and just ran a little screw up in there to keep the actual rod from bouncing or sliding back and forth as you're closing the curtain. So as you can see, just pull this across. And again, it's not fancy, but this is the basement. We're just trying to tidy it up a little bit. Up here, I'm still going to cover that up. Probably not in this video though, guys, because I just don't have the lumber. I might go get some pallet wood or something and just tack it up there and maybe hit it with some paint just to kind of clean up the look a little bit. But I would like to finish that top up here. You can see here down at the end, it's still open. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hang one more 2x4 down from the joist, just like I did on this end. And we're going to support those last 2 dowel rod holders so that we can put that last panel in here and wrap this little job up. That kind of wraps it up. So kind of an end-to-end project, and this one was interesting because we made the prep part on the Shapeoko, and then we hung it all up here in a practical use case. So kind of a neat little project. I had this in the back of my head for a little while. Again, the panels were like $7 on the clearance rack. I love the clearance rack. You'll hear me talk about it all the time. So $20 for the panels, free oak out of the trash can, the scrap wood that we cut our hangers out of, and then a few nuts, bolts, and screws, and a little bit of elbow grease here. We got this pretty much framed in. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. Again, we can move this out of the way, still get to our box stack if we want to, pull them back when we don't want to have those all sitting out and exposed. Keep the dust down a little bit as we are kind of cutting wood down here. I just used some of the small alligator clips to fasten the 2 corners here, and I might have the lady work on that on her sewing machine to actually run a seam down there so that we can have that corner fully enclosed. But it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with how it looks. Cleaned it up a little bit. I will probably update this project. We'll flip the camera around on one of our other videos and just look when we finally get that top piece filled in, because that'll just finish this whole project up right now. It looks a little unfinished up there. I'd love to stick, like I said, some pallet wood or some sort of furring strips up there just to kind of clean that up and really cover up the last bit of exposed drywall and those studs. So thanks for coming along with us. Again, sorry for the long wait between videos. Work got in the way this time, so hopefully we'll be back in another couple weeks with another neat video. We've got a project already on the way. This one's going to be more involved, so I think a couple parts for the next video, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks for coming along, guys.